Sanbanani, and welcome to Our Africa, the show that keeps you up to date with all the news-making headlines across the African continent. For this week, we cover the four corners of the continent. We bring you business, politics, health news, and arts and culture. I'm Leseho Mokwanane. First thing first, let's take a look at the story of the week. Former U.S. President Barack Obama recounted fond memories of his family home in Kenya on a visit to launch a state-of-the-art youth center run by his half-sister. Obama recalled on his first trip to Kenya since he was president in 2015, when he was unable to visit his ancestral home as his jet was too big to land in the western city of Kisumu. After a visit to the home of his step-grandmother, Sarah Obama, in the village of Kogelo, where his father was born and is buried, Obama recalled his first trip to Kenya at the age of 27.
I look at Barack Hussein Obama as a symbol of global unity, and his coming back home is a symbol of identity.
I'm excited to learn that there's a lot that is going on here, and that a space has been provided where the children can learn and feel comfortable. And also they can be able to identify their talent.
We have looked outwards for people to assist us. But from what we have gone through today, the event, it has shown that we have a lot of potential.
A herd of goats browse on grass in the stony front yard of Kona's local government offices, a town abandoned by the state and its security forces, like many others in central Mali. Sent from the regional capital, Mopti, the MINUSMA police want to ask an official about the progress of voter card distribution ahead of the 29 July presidential vote. But as the weekly market bustles, attracting people from villages miles away, there is no one in the white sub-prefecture building on a desk covered with documents. A Malian flag is the only proof there is a state in the town of 16,000. Near the statue that lies at the entrance of the town, a tribute to the first French soldier to die in the 2013 offensive against jihadists, which started in Kona, the brand new police station still has no staff. Last year, police officers dispatched to the town were instead sent to rest of areas around Mopti, some 70 kilometers away. And this is according to Yaya Traore, the deputy mayor.
Nous allons tout faire pour que l'élection quand même se déroule très normalement ici à Kona. Mais dans les villages environs, bon, vraiment, on n'a pas de sécurité là-bas et nous non plus, nous ne pouvons pas nous déplacer pour aller là-bas parce que, vu l'insécurité qui se déroule là-bas, nous ne pouvons pas nous déplacer pour aller faire la sécurité.
Tel que nous avons dembi sabar bambolo, ambi barkena, anga ressources dobi Congo aya samam, o dembi sabar bambolo. Soufe tanduru barke, lefe tanduru barke. Alsi anga elmo be su konan no bika sukuni sécurité. Ngo bambolo, ani fana soufe barmina wele tambolo be so ko.
Ko kadumuni, kadumuni. Animu. Yame. Mbe bare ale de la mbe bare ale de la fangatin la mbe bare ale de la ode model ka bolo ko nimbina kata san ke doro mbe yala ka kata san
aka mi wala ko ebe wotewa ebe ni bama be ne do fusuma be bama gila alimiwa abuma ko kara dande fu awawa wote to mi yi sudi ame mi huti yade kwata wa wala jungo ame to.
Liberian President George Weah introduces measures to tackle rampant inflation and poverty. Weah, who was elected in December, will inject $25 million into the economy as the Liberian dollar has fallen sharply in recent months, driving prices up. In a televised address, Weah said his government is fully aware that they were elected with the expectation to solve the country's challenges. This is a task that they are now embarked upon with strong determination, focus and commitment.
It is not for us to complain about the bleak situation we inherited, or to cast blame on previous administration. Rather, ours is a duty and a responsibility to find new and sustainable solutions to these old-age problems that have stubbornly defied solutions in the past. These measures will include, but not be limited to, an immediate infusion by the central bank, 25 million United States dollars into the economy to mop up the excess liquidity of the Liberian dollar. A mandate to central bank to provide more effective supervisions and regulation on money changers of foreign exchange bureau. Mandate to the central bank to provide more robust oversight of banks under its supervision. Conduct a comprehensive review of regulations on the holdings of both Liberian dollars and the US dollar outside the banking system and provide incentives and safeguards to encourage the utilization of the banking system, including financial instruments.
Thousands of people demonstrated in Morocco's capital, Rabat, against the jailing of leaders and activists of a northern protest movement. The demonstrators also chanted against militarization of the Rif, the northern region rocked by the Al-Hirak al-Shabi protests in 2016 and 2017. Under the watchful eyes of the police, people marched towards parliament, brandishing pictures of the movement's leaders and activists. A Moroccan court on June 26 sentenced 53 Hirak members to prison, terms ranging from 1 year to 20 years. Protest leader Nasser Zefzafi and 3 others were handed each 20 jail terms for plotting to undermine the security of the state. Islamist group Al-Adl Wal Isain, tolerated but unrecognized by the government, was one of several groups to take part in Sunday's protest. The group mobilized between 6,000 and 8,000 people. Those sentenced in June include journalist Hamid El Mahoudaw, who has given a 3-year jail term for failing to denounce an attempt to harm internal state security in his coverage.
المسيرة تأتي بعد النداء الذي وجهه معتقلو الريف وعائلاتهم للشعب المغربي من أجل الخروج في مسيرة تضامنية معهم وللتنديد بهذه الأحكام الجائرة التي وقعت عليه.
Je participe à ce mouvement, à ce rassemblement populaire pour demander la libération tout d'abord des libertés publiques qui ont beaucoup reculé au Maroc et la libération de tous les détenus politiques et d'opinion, et aussi pour condamner le contrôle progressif des appareils de sécurité sur l'État et la politique de l'État. Je manifeste aussi pour la démocratie, pour les libertés et pour un programme de développement pour toutes les régions marginalisées.
Zimbabwe's main opposition, the Movement for Democratic Change, cries foul over early voting processes. The MDC is alleging that police officers had not been allowed to vote secretly when completing early postal ballots. Zimbabwe is set to go to the polls at the end of this month. MDC spokesman Nkululeko Sibanda stated that voters have the constitutional right to a secret ballot, but their investigations show that police officers were voting with their employers watching them. Zimbabwe Electoral Commission said it has processed at least 7,000 postal votes from police and defense personnel who will be on duty on election day and diplomats working abroad.
Our officers were asked to vote in the presence of their seniors. That vote was not secret. We have this information. Officers are phoning us. They are complaining. We have raised these issues, and this has continued. So we would want this ballot to be made invalid. We are also nullified, escalating this matter to SADC. In fact, we are writing to SADC to request an extraordinary summit of SADC to then deal with this stalemate and this dispute. Because for as far as we are concerned, this is a dispute. We have a dispute, we have a stalemate, we have a crisis. We cannot possibly have an election if we do not know where the ballot paper is, who has printed the ballot paper, the quality of the ballot paper. We are also already mobilizing people and engaging them. We will meet all structures, we will meet the church, civic organizations, the trade unions, war veterans across the whole country to hear what they say about the way forward in terms of dealing with this issue.
Nigeria's government has stepped in to repatriate scores of its nationals from Russia. The soccer fans were tricked into buying Football World Cup passes to travel to the games. Some of the visitors spent days sleeping at Moscow's Vnukovo airport, while others were forced to stay outside in front of the country's embassy in the Russian capital. They bought fan IDs, which served as visas for the duration of the tournament in the hope of securing work or even professional football contracts. Others say they came to watch the tournament, but the bogus travel agencies cancelled their return flights and pocketed the cash. President Muhammadu Buhari spokesman Kabra Shehu says the Foreign and Aviation Ministries have taken the necessary actions to bring the Nigerian nationals back home.
The Nigerian government has not encouraged anyone to come here and look for a job or settle in the Russian Federation or use the Russian Federation as a stepping stone to other countries. We have not encouraged anyone to do that. And anyone who provides that information or counsels people or advises people to do that is a fraud. We have about 200 Nigerians that we have been able to relocate in shelters. I call them shelters, in hostels, in dormitories, so as to take them off the street. So we're compiling names. We have a few names already, which we'll simply hand over to the Nigerian authorities back home in Nigeria for them to investigate and prosecute if necessary. But no one who is guilty of perpetrating this crime is going to go free.
A new armed group appeared in Western Central Africa, not far from the Cameroonian border. A group made up mostly of Fulani herders claiming to fight against cattle thefts, which are very frequent in this region of transhumance that the state does not control.
On fouettait ici, par terre. L'autre a fait sortir le fusil pour me tirer et leur chef a dit non, ta fille ou moi. C'est là que je me suis sauvé.
L'éleveur doit contribuer par rapport à la somme demandée pour leur payer. Comme les éleveurs n'arrivent plus à les payer, il faut maintenant voler leurs bœufs.
Tous en uniforme, en tenue militaire, bien sûr. Et chacun avait un AK-47.
Ahead of Barack Obama's lecture to celebrate Nelson Mandela's 100th birthday, female African leaders discuss leadership in the face of adversity in front of 200 young leaders from 44 countries across the continent.
We are faced with a point where we talked about this earlier, where we have to lead a second revolution, if you will, for the continent. And it is all about economic independence. And I find it such a defining moment for our generation to really rise to the challenge and to take our rightful place in history and lead that revolution.
A profound transformation of the continent will be achieved when young leaders, networks, work together to build the wave of transformation.
Don't go it alone. The Ethiopians say, when spider webs combine, they can even tie up a lion. Wow. Oh, and the lion you must tie up is poverty and corruption.
Eritrea's president, Isaias Afwerki, reopened his country's embassy in Ethiopia more than 20 years after the two countries broke off relations when they went to war. The embassy inauguration caps Isaias's historic visit to the Ethiopian capital, aimed at cementing peace less than a week after Ethiopia and Eritrea declared an end to 2 decades of conflict. The leaders jointly raised the Eritrean flag inside a newly refurbished embassy as a military band played Eritrea's anthem. The normalization of relations could help Ethiopia by making access to Eritrea's ports possible. With Ethiopia in a historic visit to Addis Ababa, Isaias arrived in the Ethiopian capital just 5 days after Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed visited Eritrea as part of a dizzying peace process aimed at ending years of violence. Abiy and Isaias shared laughs and hugs at an official lunch as the Ethiopian leader said his counterpart was beloved, respected and missed by the Ethiopian people.
ብዙ ስንገብር የመጣን ቢሆንም ለውጡን ለማቆም የሚችል አንዳች የሞት ኃይል የለም። ማንም ፍቅራችንንና ስምምነታችንን ለመበተንና ለማዋቅ እርጋታችንን ለመሸበር ለማጥቃት ልማትና እድገታችንን ለማደናቀፍና ለማውደም እንዲፈታተነን አንፈቅድም።
KwaZulu-Natal and Northwest communities are voicing their views on the contentious issue of land expropriation without compensation. Parliament's Joint Constitutional Review Committee says engagements have been robust so far, with South Africans divided on the matter. The committee is gauging public sentiment on the planned amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution. MPs voted in favour of the motion in February. Kenyan academic Professor Patricia Lumumba told Afro Worldview that land is the last colonial question for the country to address. He added that the question had to be resolved urgently in an orderly fashion that goes beyond mere tokenism. He was speaking in a recording of our program One on One.
Land is the last colonial question, and if it is not resolved, then you are postponing a problem which is now ripe for a solution. How should that be done? I think, number one, it should be done in an orderly manner. I think it should be done on the basis of clear government policy. I think it should be done in a manner that allows for restoration, in a manner that ensures that there is justice, that the people who are the majority have land, and that land is utilized. It's not simply land as a trophy or as a token. The people want to work the land, and they want to be enabled to work that land. And I think that that is something that demands urgent attention in this country, as indeed it does in Namibia.
Preparations are underway for the 10th BRICS summit to be held in Sandton next week. Heads of government and state of the 5 member countries will attend the conference. And our reporter Cindy Siwetwala has more on the story.
It's all systems go for the 10th annual BRICS summit. South Africa hosts the conference for the second time since the 2013 summit held in Durban. Delegates will be looking to build on the track record of implementing resolutions.
There's a group called the BRICS Research Group situated at the University of Toronto in Canada. And every year they take the BRICS summit declarations. They look at all the commitments that were made by the member states. And then in the ensuing year, they would track how do the member states now go back home and implement the summit decisions. On average, they find BRICS members implement about 70% of all summit decisions, which is a hugely high proportion.
Following engagements in previous summits, BRICS opened a bank to assist member states with liquidity.
One is the formation of the NDB/BRICS Bank. This actually was a South African proposal when we were chairing in 2013, and we are pleased to see that the bank is in existence and they're beginning to finance some strategic projects, at least in South Africa as well. What has happened as well since has been the formation of a BRICS contingent reserve arrangement. And the CRA was established in 2015 by the BRICS countries to provide some level of mitigation against the global liquidity crisis.
The global formation has also looked at the possibility of creating a ratings agency.
This was a decision taken at the Goa summit in 2016 when India chaired to look at the possibility of exploring a credit rating agency. It's ongoing work. It's something that's not going to materialize overnight. It's a complicated process, and if we do eventually settle on setting up such a mechanism, it must be done thoroughly with full consultation, that it brings value to not only the BRICS countries but the global south and the global community.
The summit will be held from the 25th to the 27th of July 2018 at the Sandton Convention Centre. For Afro World View, Sindisiwe Twala, Sandton, Johannesburg.
4 workers were kidnapped at an oil field in southern Libya, with 2 of them later released. The abductions at the Al Sharara field will hit output in the country, whose fragile economy relies heavily on its oil supplies. Ramadan Saleh, in charge of security in Libya's southern Ubari region, stated that armed men kidnapped 4 engineers, 3 Libyans and a Romanian. Libya's National Oil Corporation confirmed in a statement that 4 workers were kidnapped by unknown armed assailants, but said 2 have been released. The company said it was working with appropriate authorities to resolve the issue without giving further details of those abducted. Oil wells in the surrounding area have been shut down as a precaution and all other workers evacuated. The Al Sharara field is one of the biggest in oil-rich Libya.
نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يعجل بالفرج على زميلنا أشرف مسلم وأيضا العامل الروماني معنا سيد فالتين. الحقيقة ما حدث غير متوقع إطلاقا. الطوارئ شركائنا في الوطن، شركائنا ونحن دين واحد، أنهم يحكموا العقل ويطلقوا سراح 2 من عاملينا في أسرع وقت ممكن.
Women sharpen their knives before setting about stinking piles of fish skins, flesh and bones that cover the floor at an unusual artisanal tannery in Western Kenya, set up by a 39-year-old industrial chemist named Newton Owino Alisom. Product separates fish skins from the rest of the waste, then tans them to make a kind of leather used to manufacture handbags, wallets, shoes, hats and jackets. Kisumu on Lake Victoria is a piscatorial place, a city where grilled tilapia and now perch are an ubiquitous delicacy and from where clean fillets are exported around the region and the world.
It's leather, but not as you know it. Newton from Kisumu in Kenya is a tanner of fish leather. Once the scales are off, the fish skins dry for a day before Newton can start tanning. First the skins soak in a drum, then the remaining flesh is taken off so the skins can be stretched.
This is what we now call a crust, fish leather crust.
Newton decided to create his fish tanning business in 2012 after witnessing huge quantities of fish being wasted in the fishing industry.
In Kisumu, we have several filleting industries, fish filleting industries. They produce close to 150,000 metric tons of fish waste. 80% of this is actually fish skin. Initially, this fish skin used to be thrown.
Newton now employs 12 people full-time. Agnes has been working with him for nearly 4 years.
I discovered this trade and from then on my life was changed. Before it was difficult, now it is much better.
As well as cutting down on waste, Newton has also turned his hand to fashion, creating his own fish leather footwear and clothing.
If we have fish, why can't we be proud of our fish and use it more economically and be proud of it? So when I put on the shoes made from fish leather, I put on the cap as well as the jacket, I feel happy, I feel very proud.
Through investment, Newton hopes one day to employ more people, scale up his business and make a name for fish leather on the world stage.
Students in Mozambique, Maputo, will now be taught in local languages. The country adopted Portuguese after colonization and is the general language of education. The aim of this exercise is to help the students to be bilingual.
About 50 children sit on a bare classroom floor in front of their teacher in what could be any lesson in Mozambique, except that they're not learning in Portuguese, the country's official language. The class is being taught in Xangana, a local language spoken in southern Mozambique and in the capital Maputo that is closely related to Tsonga, spoken across southern Africa.
Aqui todas as crianças conhecem Xangana. São poucas. Essas poucas são essas que vêm da cidade para cá. Sim, mas a maioria, quase todas, falam Xangana, não tem dificuldade de se expressar em Xangana.
Almost all teaching in Mozambique is in Portuguese, a legacy of the country's colonial era before independence in 1975. But the majority of Mozambicans speak one of more than 40 local languages.
No ensino bilingue, as crianças são mais ativas, porque dominam a língua, não têm receio de falar com o professor, elas expressam-se melhor na língua que dominam, que é a língua local.
The Mozambican government has acknowledged the problem and in 2017 introduced reforms aimed at having classes taught in local languages. Although some parents often want their children to be taught exclusively in Portuguese. They later switched to the official language at about the age of 10 after children have had time to learn it.
Para o nosso projeto na província de Maputo, onde estamos a trabalhar em 4 distritos, são mais de 5.000 crianças que estão no ensino bilingue, na primeira e segunda classe, que estão no nosso programa.
Many rural schools have no trained teachers to give lessons in local languages or any translated books. Government policy is for teachers to have 3 years of training, but that has been cut down to 1 year due to budget shortages and the nationwide shortage of all teachers.
Das 7 turmas que temos aqui na escola, aquela de bilingue é que tem uma percentagem alta referente ao primeiro trimestre. O nosso rendimento pedagógico ali está acima de 90%.
Non-governmental organizations Ajuda de Desenvolvimento de Povo para Povo and Food for Knowledge now work with 101 schools in 4 districts in Maputo province, with more than 5,000 children taking part in the program and more than 67,000 books having been distributed. But the difficulties for teachers switching between languages cannot be estimated. Bureau Report, Afro Worldview.
That's all the news making headlines across the African continent for this week. From Milese Khomokonane and the rest of our Africa team, Salani Gahle.